I'm Chris, you're watching FRAG-MENTAL. Welcome to the third and final part of 25 fragrances I will never stop recommending. Let's get it. In the previous two videos, I've covered 16 incredible fragrances. Now it's time for the final 9, the top tier of my collection. All the other fragrances in the previous two videos I absolutely adore, which is why I will always recommend them. These are my particular favourites. These are the fragrances that if I had to get rid of all the rest, these are the ones that I just could not part with. So they're my particular favourites. For that reason, I will always recommend them. Unless, of course, reformulations ruin them. Speaking of reformulations, let's kick off the list with the fragrance that is perhaps the most famous to be reformulated, not just once, but thousands of times. Okay, that's maybe an exaggeration, but it's a lot. From Creed, it's Aventus. Aventus is a great fragrance. Yes, I'm finding myself wearing Viking more at the moment. That may partly be because I just got Aventus fatigue with all the clones I've smelled over the years. This is one higher than Viking on the list because I think it's just a bit more mass appealing. It's a little easier to recommend to people, but only just. So you know the deal with this: pineapple, blackcurrant, vanilla, birchwood. It is a modern day fougere. It's the definition of masculinity. Many claim in the last couple of years Aventus has been reformulated, it's weakened, it's a shadow of its former self. That may be so. I haven't smelled recent batches. This is a 2016 batch, but it doesn't mean to say that the current version of Aventus is a bad fragrance, which is why I'm fine still recommending it to people. If I know that they've never smelled a Creed fragrance, if they've never smelled Aventus before, I'm pretty sure that when they smell it, they're going to be blown away. And all the people that I've recommended it to who have bought it have always really enjoyed it. Of course, I give them all the cheaper clone options. Some people decide to go that route. Some people don't want clones. They want to buy the original fragrance. So great scent that the majority of people will love, which makes it pretty easy to recommend. If friends come to me and they say, Chris, can you recommend a versatile all year round fragrance that I don't have to spend silly money on? I tell them all about Chanel's Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. Citrus, spice, woods and tonka bean. This ticks all the boxes of what most people want out of a fragrance. It's fresh, it's clean, it's got a strong distinctive character, it's mass appealing, it's quite attention grabbing, but it's also got this smooth and sensual side. Quite simply, you can't go wrong. It's a fragrance that's very easy to reach for, but it's certainly not safe or boring. On top of all that, you get good performance, the quality of Chanel. Blue is good, but this is gooder. Sorry, bad English. This is betterer. Do you know what time it is? It's tobacco time, and this is one of the best smelling and most affordable tobacco fragrances money can buy. From Moogler, it's Pure Havane. Sweet cherry tobacco, honey, patchouli, amber. For me, Pure Havane is a fragrance that is fun and energetic, but it's also warming and comforting. I love that contrast. I like that it's not too heavy. It has a brightness that makes it very easy to wear, very mass appealing. This is a fragrance I'll recommend to people who are wanting to take their fragrance wearing to the next level. They love fragrances, but they're used to fresher scents. Maybe they've been wearing things like Acqua di Gio, Bleu de Chanel, but they're starting to think about wearing fragrances for different seasons. So if I sense someone is ready to take the next step, I will recommend Pure Havane. If they like this, they'll probably start getting in deep. Then we all know what happens. They'll discover Naxos, they'll get a decant, it blows their minds, and their wallet takes a beating. So if I think someone is ready for all that, if they're ready to get sucked into that rabbit hole, Pure Havane should do that very nicely. Okay, here's a banger from Tom Ford. It's creative, it's bold, it smells a little bit different, but it's still very easy to like. Ombre Leather. A lot of you may know that I absolutely adore Tuscan Leather from Tom Ford. It's one of my favourites from the private blend. But when it comes to recommending that fragrance to people, I'm always a little bit wary because it can be divisive. It's quite a potent, strong smelling fragrance, whereas Ombre Leather is a similar DNA, but it's easier to like, it's more mass appealing, it's a little bit sweeter, it's more rounded, so it has a lovely fruitiness and a smooth suede-like leather. It's got all the quality you'd associate with a luxury brand like Tom Ford. It'll get noticed, there's a high chance it'll get complimented. It used to be in the private blend, which is a more expensive line, but now it's in the signature line, so makes this affordable for a lot more people. I just think you get great bang for your buck with this one. I've recommended it to lots of people and no one has ever come back to me disappointed. I've spoken about this one a lot recently. It's a winter staple for me. It's also fantastic for Christmas. It's my favourite from Viktor and Rolf's Spicebomb range, Extreme. Sexy Spicebomb DNA with some added creamy vanilla and rich tobacco. It's cosy, it's fun. Hits the spot, does the job, brings it home, you get the picture. Spicebomb Extreme is a banger, especially if you pull the pin. Now the big boy's coming out. I'll just say that again a little more clearly in case you misinterpreted. Now the big boys are coming out. The big boys, not the big boy. The big boy fragrance. Anyway, from Nasomatto, it's Pardon. Boom, masterpiece, mind blown. Some kind of brooding floral, an oud accord, a layer of chocolate. Bit of a pain when someone asks you what you're wearing because they think you're just apologising. This is a good balance of artistic and mass appealing. I've had some surprisingly lovely comments on this fragrance. Anyone who I've ever recommended this to has at first been a bit confused because it's quite a strange smell when you've never smelled it before. It's quite unique, it's a little bit wild. But quite quickly they've started to enjoy it, they become addicted and they agree with me. Pardon, or with the very popular random French pronunciation pardon, is très magnifique. Here we go, top 3. This bad boy is responsible for dragging me down the rabbit hole, so when I say bad, I mean naughty. Very naughty, because it's cost me an awful lot of money. From Tom Ford, it's Oudwood. Stunning blend of spices, woods and vanilla. Pretty much universal love for this fragrance, and I can see why. It was just so different to anything else at the time it was released. Like Aventus, it's a bit of a game changer. Part of the reason for that is its broad appeal. Most people tend to love this one. It's an incredibly sexy, head-turning fragrance. If you've never had a compliment on your fragrance, you've probably never got wood, Oudwood, that is, so get it, get woody. Here's my number 2. I love a good number 2, and they don't come much more satisfying than Parfums de Marly's Carlisle. This is like a cinnamon and apple dessert with custard, but done in a way that works as a fragrance. It's super rich and full-bodied like a lot of Parfums de Marly's fragrances. It's got this gourmand-like sweetness, but also this strong woody backbone that really captures people's attention. Performance is off the scale. This is probably the strongest fragrance that I own. If someone wants a sweet fragrance with big performance, then I think Carlisle is really going to hit the spot. It's sort of like a best-of album of Parfums de Marly's fragrances. There's a bit of Leighton, there's a glimmer of Herod, a dash of Oudwood, but rather than smelling derivative, it's a beautifully unique fragrance. Carlisle just ticks all the boxes for me. I think it will for most people. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. So the number 1 fragrance I will never stop recommending will probably come as no surprise to most people. It is the perfect, to me anyway, Roja Parfums Enigma. When I first discovered Enigma, I feel like it wasn't getting talked about a great deal. Yes, a few people would talk about it and say how much they loved the fragrance. Often it was called a masterpiece. But I think since this more affordable Parfum Cologne version has come out, a lot more people have discovered it, and I hear Enigma getting talked about very positively a lot more these days. It's this stunning masculine oriental style fragrance with cognac and tobacco, vanilla, benzoin, and it's got this beautiful, rich, Coca-Cola-like smell. And we all know how addictive Coca-Cola can be, but with the vanilla, you get this rich, creamy, sensual nature to the fragrance. So it's like a Coca-Cola floats with the world's finest cognac poured on top. Actually, I'd love someone to make a drink version of Enigma because I bet it would taste awesome. Until then, I will just have to be content with smelling awesome, and if you take up my recommendation, you can smell awesome too. So there it is, that completes the trilogy of my videos on 25 fragrances that I will never stop recommending. Now, I think many of you who've watched my videos for a few years could probably predict most of the fragrances that I've just talked about in this video. I did see one comment a couple of weeks ago pretty much listing literally all the fragrances in this video. But hey, at least I know what I like and at least I'm consistent, and it just shows that you guys watch my videos and you take note of what I'm saying to you. So that's all fine. So let me know what you think of these fragrances. Which fragrances would you never stop recommending to people? You know, which fragrances would be the only ones in your collection if you could only keep 25? I mean, you don't have to list all 25, maybe just let me know your top 5 if you do. But if you're just discovering fragrances, if you're learning about fragrances, niche fragrances in particular, then I hope you've found something in this video that has been interesting. I hope it's been useful, and I hope you've enjoyed my presentation of this content. So thank you very much for watching. It is always appreciated. Remember, keep tuning into FM, keep smelling good, and I'll see you in the next one.